Okay, market recap for February the 24th. Let's talk quickly about what is happening on the daily, just for context, and then we will go from there. So, we had a breakout here. It made new highs over this, came up, pushed up, and it was rejecting these areas of highs, which is bigger on the, much easier to see on the weekly. Let's just click over there, right? So this kind of high on the weekly, which was a failed breakout back in August, right? It cleared this high, failed to hold above and continue higher. Is this going to turn into the same as this? I don't know, but so far it's looking kind of like it, right? So let's go back to the daily, right? So now we're testing the kind of tops of this area here, this 925, where was it? About there, you know, kind of some support here, resistance, failed, up higher, holding. So buyers stepped in on Friday because they had something easy to risk to. They could risk first this 880. And it pretty much got an immediate reaction at 925 after a little bit of consolidation right above it, and then we kind of grinded higher. So that's kind of where we're at on the daily. I think it's important to hold that 925, or at very least this low. If we start getting closes under this level, it'll be pretty bearish. I'd like to see at least kind of come up into here over the next couple weeks. Maybe next week, 2 weeks. It's only 500 points, so it can happen in a couple days. Right, that'll kind of confirm the bearish bias if it comes up to here and then fails. That's kind of what I'm looking for in the daily. But let's go back. This is more of a daily recap. I just thought I'd talk about that. So let's go into the 5-minute. And let's go first into the RTH session, which I think is more key than the overnight session, especially even to position for the Globex session. I take much more account into what could happen the next day. So we had this massive gap up on the Thursday, sold right off into support, and it ended up reclaiming these levels and squeezed higher, right? So going into Friday's Globex, or Thursday night Globex, what I would have liked to see from a bullish perspective, if we were going to continue higher, is to clear the opening range highs and actually get a squeeze into the close. Like, yes, this was all kind of a big squeeze, but if we would have cleared these highs, we could have actually saw some pretty decent fireworks. You know, maybe we could have opened under 880 and then sold down, or we could have filled the gap overnight and then sold down. But obviously, we failed to make the higher high, and then it kind of just it sold off overnight, right? After it's kind of a bearish move, bullish move, and then the fact that we gapped down all the way to where we hit bottoms is pretty bearish, and it's likely to continue. But not much movement after such a big range day. So let's go to the 1 minute. Oops, we opened under support, or we opened on top of support at the 980 level and pushed higher, basically, right into resistance. In here, there's no real clear short opportunities. You're better off to try the longs and then get in short versus the resistance, right? You know, something easy and tangible to see is kind of this little zone here for a short, right? And you don't got to get short into it. You can wait for you have something to risk to, right? You can see the initial rejection, and as it's coming down, you can try a short at 20, 28, risking versus 42, or even doing fixed risk, right? After that, it was pretty much sell mode, but it was slow. You had to be really, really patient, right? Always good to lock in some at the level, 50-point move if you caught it, or a 50-point move this way if you caught it. It can consolidate. It was kind of tricky action here because it was bear flaggy. It broke down, did make a higher low than this, and then it popped back up, but failed to make a higher high than this. So there was a lot of indecision in this from 9:45 till 10 o'clock, and then finally sellers won out. But again, took a long time. So buyers were taking nibbles down here. It just took some time. Once it did finally hit the 925, double bottomed and then trended up higher. So on the 1 minute, you can't see it so much, but the key kind of is once we start reclaiming these highs, right? So you get the double bottom, it pushes up. This actually makes a higher high, or slightly, very slight, and then you can buy the higher low versus the previous higher low, and then you got a nice little move there. Again, this I kind of thought it would maybe roll over again, but it ended up holding on, and then it kind of gave us that push over this high before shorts found themselves compelled to join in, right? Because we have the intraday high and then the lower high, right? And then again, sell. Buyers start taking nibbles down near 925, right? They're afraid of it not coming right all the way back to 925 and not getting those fills. And then we just kind of traded sideways with little pops and sells. Again, we didn't make a higher high the rest of the day, so I'll be kind of watching these highs. Basically this 230 level, if we see reclaims of that into the Monday or Globex, maybe we start to fill some of this big gap from RTH, right? Negative news kind of brought us down here. So we'll see. We've had quite a few sell days. I'd like to see some rally, but the market doesn't care what I want to see. So let's look at the 5 for other clues, right? The 5 makes it a little bit more clear. Again, you have to be patient. Obviously, in here, it's a little bit harder to short because there's nothing easy to risk to. Like the correct risk is versus this high. So people wait for failure so they have something to risk to, right? Like we get this first 5-minute candle, it pops up, and then the second 5-minute candle, it pops up really close, right? So it's like really low risk shorts, right? Like that's with about 12 points of risk. So you're trying to fill in there, risking 12 points for a potential 1 to 3 risk or more if you're targeting the 925. Worked out pretty good. Whereas if we had more volatility in the morning and it actually had pops up to here, it's a lot easier for shorts to pile in because this move was quick and then the sell was aggressive, right? There was no consolidation or anything. So if you missed it, you missed it. And then you're kind of poorly positioned. You can short in here, but again, I use kind of fixed risk until we have something we can actually tangibly risk to, right? And then we sell and we kind of make this higher high over here. Like this is the same thing that played out on the 1 minute, but in the 5-minute time frame, right? It made the higher high, then here, it came back down, it made the higher low, right? It's kind of giving you like a little bit of support kind of in here, right? People are buying that. Or if you use like a fib tool, it's about the 0.5 retracement, between 0.5 and 0.618 retracement. So again, a low risk long, something easy to risk to is that previous low. And then we got the grind up, right? And that, again, tangible to risk 786 fib. So it's basically saying downtrend is maintained and let's keep it that way, right? And then same with this way. Pretty close. It's kind of right around the fibs, but not a super good example of that one. But it's basically it came down, it made the higher low, right, and then continued up. But because we failed to clear this high, we didn't get the squeeze into the close, which I would have liked to see. Always good to see a good squeeze, especially on a Friday. And then, yeah, it came down and closed with a with a lower high and like basically the same low. So sideways, basically a break of this range is kind of going to give us our direction. If we get a test to 925 again and it holds, it's likely to get along on the Globex. Maybe, like I said, maybe we get some gap fill. Or if it doesn't come down to there and it clears the 1230, likely to see some gap fill. If we can't break the range and maybe we open under 980, potential lower high and more selling come down and can carry us on, right? So notice how any highs and lows become very important, right? Because that's where the stops go, right? People get short into here, right? If someone maybe missed the short up here or any of the Globex shorts, pre-market shorts, or they only trade RTH, you know, they get short into here, they get some profits, you know, their runners are always staying just above, right? So it'd be, you know, stop would be above there after it's established, right? Stop would be above there after it's established. So when we finally get those pops up, it collects all those stops, adds some liquidity, and pushes higher, right? So when it comes down, makes the higher low. Anyone that had their stops above this, maybe looking for a longer term trade or anywhere in here, they see that and they think, okay, well, I'm going to cover some. You know, I probably will get a chance to bid, to reoffer a little higher, right? So that's where that's kind of how I look at the markets, is where are the stops? What is going to cause the stops to make my move, right? So you don't even have to play the 925 lows. You can for sure take a starter, and then once you see the higher high, you can add to it on the higher low. I'm still working on adding myself. I don't like how it kind of skews my risk in my head, but it's definitely probably the way to go. I like taking a full position size and just risking fixed points for fixed reward, right? So like I'd be out on this 980 push. And then this would be another play, is trying to relong the higher low for this push, right? Ideally, I would have aimed for 230, but it was a very quick sell after that, right? So that's kind of bearish. Okay, so now let's look at ETH, see kind of what happened overnight. So where's the session open? Session opens here, right? Get a little bit of sell. It makes the lower low, it comes up. It looks like it's gonna fail here at 945 and then carry on. Gets a little mini squeeze. You know, stops are above here. Squeezes. Shorts use that as an opportunity to pile in. Comes down, lower low, lower high, kind of sideways, right? Globex can be very sideways, so you kind of gotta have a little bit wider risk, right? You know, like if you got short in here, your stops need to be above here, basically. And because if you had to go above here, you would have got stopped out. And then eventually not quite near London, a little earlier even, starts to break down, right? Starts breaking down about 2, London opens at 3, and then we get those little stair steps down, and then consolidation into the data, and then just sell, right? So obviously positioning yourself before data, pretty risky. If you positioned yourself overnight, and you're willing to risk your 100 points of gain for a potential another 150 points, that's okay. But to try and short this in the news is pretty risky, right? It comes down, it tests the 27, and let's go to the 1 minute and see it. Gives a little bit of continuation consolidation. So you could get short in here, right? See this kind of, people, they're trying to see which way it's going to go. Our buyer's going to step up and bid it. And because it's, look, you can see what everyone's risking to basically. Higher low, higher low, higher low, lower low, lower low, lower low. Or sorry, lower high, lower high, lower high. And then everyone's stops are just underneath. So when it gives that push down, collects them all, the pop up, they see that as bearish, and anyone joins in there. and then you get that pretty much sell, sell, sell right into the 980 before it does some consolidation, and we get that short cover into the open, right? So again, double bottoms, about 975, 980, pretty close to our 980 level. Here again, you get that push up. After it clears this, stops are above it, right? People are already nicely in profit. They want to protect their profits. So it's more likely to see these little liquidity grab, pop stops kind of thing. Stops, gets it. You know, people are getting short into this with fixed risk. Probably they're not probably risking all the way up to here. Sell, sell, sell. You know, buyer step in, low risk, long. You know, risk a fixed amount of points, and then it climbs back up into the open, right? So this is the position into the open, is in here, or right into this down candle if you only play RTH. Pops up, you know, these guys are risking probably versus this, right? So that's the high is about 55 and it went to 42. So, you know, 12, 15 points of risk, and then further sell. And then again, the same kind of context as intraday, right? So see how the market only moves based on risk and reward. It's basically everyone just positioning for their risk on whatever time frame, right? So like, let's look at a couple other time frames. Maybe we can see some other stuff. I always think it's key to kind of look at everything. 15-minute, same thing, right? Basically the same patterns playing out, right? Lower high, higher low, potential lower high, higher low, clears that, pops up, sells. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of my market outlook for Friday and what caused it, and maybe where we're gonna go into Monday. Okay, have a good night.